Guentzel too, as a guy that, the biggest name in free agency this summer. And I think some people thought maybe he'd stay in Carolina. Obviously, he was a great fit there to see if he could make a little bit of run, help them. Like, how did that all come together? I wasn't sure how the new free agency window worked, where can he get a chance to talk to people or not? Like, how did he kind of become a Tampa Bay Lightning player?
Right. There used to be an interview period they had, which now they've eliminated it. And that was always, you couldn't negotiate or come to an agreement on a contract, but you could talk to teams and figure out parameters. So that created a big gray area. Now that's closed, and they no longer have that. But I did a full negotiation with Pittsburgh on Guentzel before the season, and he was hurt, and we didn't get a deal done. And then come the trade deadline, he got traded to Carolina. I talked to them a little bit, and then they made a run with Guentzel, and then all of a sudden you're at the draft, and he wasn't signed. And I think that was a big part of it. Eric Tulsky was named their GM, this summer, and he hadn't been a GM before, and we had a good relationship with him, during the negotiations. And Tom Dundon, their owner, is more involved than most, and had a lot of dialogue with him too, a lot of meetings at the draft. And I think the big reason that he didn't end up, back in Carolina was the deal didn't get done until basically the draft. And once you get that close to, the deadline or the starting point for the next season or the next free agency on July 1st, I think all of a sudden teams start, making moves, and there's a different buzz than there is, in May or June, or, all of a sudden now you're at the end of June, and he got that close. And then there was a big trade. Tampa ended up making a trade and freed up, some space with Utah. And it took like that long, really, really, for it to happen. And I thought he was probably going to end up getting signed in Carolina, but it didn't happen. And that was, I think, the case. It took so long that he got closer to free agency, and boom, all of a sudden it happened quick with the trade and the sign.
I grew up a Penguins fan. Can you just maybe clear up or give a little context to the parting of ways with Pittsburgh? Because it's pretty well known he didn't want to leave. Like, he was very happy there. Was it something that was like a long time coming, and you guys saw that he was going to be moving at the deadline, or this kind of hit him out of nowhere?
Well, I think with his injury and surgery before last season, he had a surgery about 1 year ago, maybe a week before today. And so he went into the season not 100% clear. And the new GM, Kyle Dubas, was trying to figure out which way the Penguins were going. And if he was 100% healthy, maybe he gets signed. We talked about it a lot. Jake wanted to re-sign with Pittsburgh. I think Dubas wanted to sign Jake, knew how valuable he was. Jake is a loyal, great hockey player, loves Sid Crosby, loves the Hall of Fame cast on that team. So he wanted to get a deal done, and we were somewhat close, but he was hurt. And I think that was the reason it didn't get done. So they wanted to wait and see what was going to happen. And I think Kyle Dubas and the Pittsburgh Penguins' intention was to sign Jake. And I think Jake's intention was to sign with the Penguins. And then Jake was confident that the team was going to, I had questions, where was the team going to go? And he was confident, and it's his career, not mine. He listens to me, but at the end of the day, he's the one making the decision. He thought he was going to end up staying there, and the season didn't end up going great. And it looked like, at the trade deadline, that they weren't going to be, close to that point when they were deciding what to do. Jake was a player that they could get the most assets for in return and do a potential rebuild. And then he ended up getting traded to Carolina, and Carolina wasn't going to sign him. So if you're trying to figure out what Dubas was maybe doing, maybe there was a scenario where he thought if he goes to Carolina, he's still in the East, which normally you really probably wouldn't want to trade, a player like that to the East and re-sign a long-term contract. And he didn't, because, they got knocked out by the Rangers. And then, I don't know, I'm not saying it's the case, but maybe Dubas thought we could re-sign him possibly in the summer too. And I think just the biggest answer to your question, Scott, is I think Pittsburgh didn't make enough of a statement this year to show, everyone involved, most importantly, probably Kyle Dubas, that they were ready to pay Jake, what he's going to get in free agency. And that was the right move for that team at the time where they're going to be rebuilding. You have Sid there. It's just was such a tough dynamic that I think Kyle Dubas did a good job under, some really tough, uncertain times which way it was going.